After back-to-back years of tanking, the Toronto Raptors are looking to put losing behind them and make the playoffs next season. But what's going to have to change for them to do that? Let's get into it. This is Amateur Sports, and it is the YouTube channel that is dedicated to providing you with Toronto Raptors content in videos like this and live streams. Drop a like if you enjoy, subscribe for more content just like it. And a lot of the comments recently have talked about the Raptors and their ambitions for next season, and everyone is pinpointing that 6th seed. Everyone wants to be top 6 or bust, essentially. Kind of looking at the way things are shaping up for this season with the projected roster for the Raptors, adding on what could be a very high pick in the upcoming NBA draft. We're looking to make the top 6 next season. We're kind of sick of losing. We're kind of sick of the tanking here. The team has invested resources to bringing Brandon Ingram to the team. They've got Scotty Barnes on a big contract now, Emmanuel quickly on a big contract, RJ Barrett on, medium size to big contract. Like, we've invested a lot of resources in here. The front office has put in a lot of resources to make this a team that should be getting into the playoffs next season. But after a 30-win season in the most recent season, a 25-win season the year before that, things are going to have to change in order for the Raptors to accomplish that. Because we're looking at the NBA standings, even from just this season here. 6th seed was a pretty good Detroit Pistons team that won 44 games. So how are the Raptors going to get themselves in the range of 44, 45 wins to get into that spot next season? Well, we're going to highlight the 3 biggest things over the course of this video today. First of all, what's going to have to change is the offensive hierarchy, because this season, obviously, Brandon Ingram wasn't on the team, and when he was, he didn't play with the team. So you insert Brandon Ingram in, and things are going to change a lot. But offensive hierarchy needs to change, I think, in the sense of the way Scotty Barnes was utilized, because he was a focal point of the offense this season. I've said numerous times in the recent weeks that it was a good move by the Raptors to see what it would look like with Scotty Barnes as the main piece of the offense. And now that we've seen it, we can kind of see that it didn't quite work out. But we did see the season before this that Scotty Barnes playing in tandem with an incredible offensive player like Pascal Siakam. Well, Scotty Barnes was an all-star that season and was excellent when he's not the focal point, when he's not tasked with creating his own shot on a consistent basis, because Scotty Barnes is a very intelligent player, very good cutter. And I think we can use his skills even better by playing as kind of like that second piece to Brandon Ingram on the offensive end. We know Barnes can be that lead piece on defense. He kind of showed that for us this season, but on offense, Brandon Ingram has got to be that guy. I just really want to eliminate those pockets of games, and even like the closing stages of games where the Raptors really need a bucket. You finally got this guy who can just go get you a bucket. This guy who's going to create his own shot and can make the tough ones. For years and years, I think the entire time I've been covering the Raptors on this channel for the last 5 years, we've all been kind of waiting for this style of player like Brandon Ingram to join the team. Like, we just haven't had this sort of archetype, and it's going to be super exciting to see that happen for the Raptors. But I think Brandon Ingram coming to the team and being put up as that main guy on offense, and if there's an understanding from the teammates that he is that main guy on offense, then I think we're going to eliminate more of those cold stretches of games. I think we're going to be more successful in the clutch of games, especially if they're coached better than they were last season. That's also been something that's highlighted in the comment section, because start of the season, so many close games would go begging for the Raptors because they weren't executing correctly, or they didn't have the players to execute correctly, whatever it was. I think that's going to change next season. That alongside, I hope Emmanuel quickly is involved, shooting a lot more threes. I'd love to see even more threes taken. I'd love to see more pull-up threes taken. And RJ Barrett, I think he will be here next season. It'll be tough to trade him. Can he start to take on even more threes? Can he become a bit more of an outside threat to help the rest of the team? I think that's going to be big for the Raptors. But restructuring the offensive hierarchy around Brandon Ingram is the first thing that needs to change. And hey, it goes without saying that these guys need to stay healthy, obviously. And it does go without saying we need to see a good season overall from Brandon Ingram. But the second thing that does need to change for the Raptors to be successful, to make the playoffs, to be a top 6 seed for next season, it's still some roster work that needs to be done for Toronto. And sure, one of those needs of sorts can be addressed at the draft, but it all depends on where the Raptors are selecting. But looking at it right now, and I've done a full video covering these 3 things that the Raptors need, the Raptors are still very much lacking shooting. the Raptors are still probably lacking some defense, and they are definitely lacking a backup big. Starting off with the shooting here, we look at what would likely be the starting five for the Raptors going into the draft. The Raptors would be starting next season: Emmanuel Quickley, R.J. Barrett, Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram, Jakob Poeltl. There's a lot of offense there. 18 points per game from Quickley, 21 points per game from Barrett, 20 points per game from Barnes, 22 points per game from Ingram, 15 points per game from Poeltl. There's a lot of offense there. There's a lot of people who can score, but perhaps we won't be maximizing their output if they don't have enough space to actually go and play their game, because Emmanuel Quickley can shoot a lot, as I just alluded to, but R.J. Barrett likes getting to the rim. Scotty Barnes likes playing in mid-range and getting to the rim. Brandon Ingram loves playing in mid-range. These are guys who need space to operate, and if there's not that shooting around them to help them do that, then we could run into issues. R.J. Barrett can shoot, not a shooter. Scotty Barnes didn't have a great shooting season, but definitely not a shooter regardless. Brandon Ingram, he's a decent shooter, but not of a very high volume. Poeltl doesn't shoot at all, except that one time this season when he made that corner three. But not a lot of shooting in that lineup. And off the bench, Walter was pretty good in his rookie season, shooting 35%. Grady Dick, good shooter for sure. Abaji was great shooting this season from the corners, but is that enough really? Because you still have guys like Jamal Shead coming off the bench who maybe isn't as adept as a three-point shooter. Lots can change based on who the Raptors draft for sure, but feels like we need to add an injection of shooting into this team. We definitely need to add a little bit more defense. Now, maybe I'm starting to think okay, how much are we really missing? Because the Raptors were so good on defense in the second half of the season. How much of that was because every 2 out of 3 games they were playing against a tanking team, and defense was a lot easier when you're playing against G Leaguers on the other side. But clearly Barnes played very well on defense. The team as a whole was very good on defense, but I still feel like some of those defensive stoppers are just missing from the team. The defensive stopper, who is the stopper on the perimeter? Is it Abaji? Probably kind of it is. Is it, to a certain degree, Barnes? Maybe, but Barnes is better down low as that help defense 4 type. So maybe that sort of player needs to be injected, but there were some good signs on defense. But definitely what needs to be injected, you have to get a backup big. People try to convince me it was going to be Orlando Robinson. The Raptors were, they were such fans that they cut him before the season even finished, and brought Colin Castleton back. Colin Castleton will not cut it as the backup big. So if it's in the draft with a guy like Kamen Malawash or whoever, somebody needs to come in as the backup rim protector for when Poeltl is on the floor, or, God forbid, if Poeltl misses a period of time with injury, which, of course, is always a possibility for any player. But you need to have cover in that position as well, which leads us to the third thing. And it does kind of go hand in hand a little bit with the second thing of injecting a few more pieces into the roster. Well, yes, you could find some pieces that would fill these gaps, but the third thing we're going to discuss is internal development. And maybe some of the players develop internally to a point where they are filling the gap that is needed there. I asked for a defensive stopper. Well, is Abaji going to continue to get better? Is, Barnes going to continue to get better there? Maybe. Crazy thought. Don't think you'll have, but ever since R.J. Barrett's come to the Raptors, he has continued to develop his game to fit the needs of the team. If R.J. Barrett hones in on his defense in the offseason and can really get better there, I'm not going to call him, look, I'm not saying defensive stop or anything like that, but if RJ can turn into a plus on defense, he's got the tools, he's got the size to do it. If he can turn into a plus defender, that makes him extraordinarily more valuable to the Raptors going forward and makes him a much better fit for the Raptors going forward. But, is in the internal development on defense enough to forego having to bring in some defensive pieces? I think that is the most likely outcome for the defensive stuff. For shooting, is there going to be enough of a jump from Walter? Is Grady Dick going to be consistent enough? Is Abaji going to keep this shooting up? Can somebody in the starting five, can Barrett start taking more threes, knocking down more of them? That could be huge. That would be monumental for the Raptors if RJ can take that step. And it's just the reality that he's got to change the most, it seems, to fit with this team. Again, I like RJ, but just with the personnel around him, right now the fit's a little clunky. But if RJ can become a better defender, an even better shooter, that makes a big difference. Can Barnes get back up to 34% shooting from three? Bobby Webster talked about when they acquired Brandon Ingram. Do they want him to shoot more? Hey, he's got good three-point shooting percentages. Can he do that on higher volume? Maybe they'll task him with that. Like, maybe the shooting can come from within as well. But where we do, I don't think this is going to come from within, but backup rim protection, I don't think that development is going to come from within, with all due respect to Colin Castleton. But there are needs for this team, but it doesn't really feel like 44 wins is that far out of reach. It kind of scares me to say because I want to look back, what were you thinking? But really, like, there's a lot of offense here. There's a lot of talent here. The team does need some work. It does need some changing. But at the end of the day, I think that Raptors fans, like, if this isn't a top 8 team, this is a problem. But you want to avoid those top 2 teams. You want to avoid the play-in tournament. 6th place or better has to be the goal for the Raptors going into next season. And I think if they don't reach the top 6, then we really do have to look at it like, there was a bit to be desired there. So let's see where the Raptors can go. The draft can make a huge difference, but with these, not so humongous changes for the Raptors, this should be a winning team next season, and we should be disappointed if it's not.